When I first thought about recording this solo episode for this week, I was thinking that I should cover some of the biggest controversies or the biggest highlights that happened throughout the week, including one that just happened today, Thursday, when I'm recording, August 1st, where we saw a boxing match in the Olympics, where there was supposedly a man fighting a woman, and it created so much controversy across social media, across X, across the sports world, everywhere. So I thought I should cover those themes. Also the Russian-US prisoner exchange, the situation happening in Israel and Iran. A lot of things I could cover. And I feel that in this episode, everyone would be more favored, including myself, if I stick to what my intuition is telling me, that the world is swamped right now with news headlines, with everyone just saying their piece, their opinion. I just don't want to add any more noise into it. What I want to do instead, throughout this month, I'll be hosting experts on each of these subjects and many more, so they can shed a light into what's happening, their perspective on it, without a lot of fluff and just a lot of nonsense emerging. I want to clear through the noise and see perspectives that have the pulse in the subject matter, rather than just me giving you a hot take. I think a lot of people do that already. So in this episode of Through Conversations podcast, the platform where we explore the truth through conversations with the most brilliant minds, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Alex, if you're a newcomer. If not, I completely understand that you may have already become a bit fatigued when I always introduce the podcast this way. But bear with me, we're still growing and we'll keep including new members of the community, which I'm very excited and grateful for. In this episode, I feel that it's going to be a pivot from last week and the previous week, where I explored the concepts of, UFOs, aliens, Gary Nolan, which I find extremely insightful, and I will be hosting a lot of experts more on that subject. But in this episode, I wanted to do a pivot, as I mentioned. I wanted to share with you that I wrote a book in the past year. It's gonna be published somewhere around late 2024, early 2025. I'm still figuring out a few things. But I wanted to share with you one chapter that I really love, which is very relevant to what I'm talking about right now, just following our intuition and just maybe creating our own path rather than just going through what everyone is doing. So in this case, I've already mentioned my book, which is called The Time Is Now, A Guide to Honor Your Time on Earth. It's the first time I mentioned the title of the book in an episode, so definitely feel special for it if you're a new member of the community of Through Conversations. It's a book that emerged from my own lack of understanding of the current workplace environment as a Gen Z. I think that it's one of the most debated topics right now, besides all of the other noise. I feel that the workplace environment is going to drastically change with the rising disruptive innovations that are happening, including artificial intelligence, and how the definition of work is going to completely change, and how there's been a lot of friction between generations in what good work or a life well lived means in terms of work. So the book covers the future of work in a Gen Z perspective, but also it's more of a guide from a Gen Z perspective to share with all generations how we can honor our time on Earth in this new era of what work means. How should we engage with our time on Earth here, and what's the best way we can truly make an impact. And so I'll be sharing more and more as time progresses and as the book has more form. In this episode, I wanted to share with you a quick sub-chapter in which I discuss intuition. The chapter is called The Alchemy of Gut Feelings. Quote, "Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary." Steve Jobs. We all have a sense of how impactful intuition is in our lives, often described as a gut feeling or a sixth sense, and it is perhaps the most underrated asset we possess for making decisions aligned with who we truly are. Many people attribute their best decisions to following their gut feelings, sometimes to the point of even saving lives. A vast amount of research reveals the power of intuition, especially when facing enormous challenges that are often riddled with uncertainty and complexity. One study found that firefighters were more accurate in their judgments about the location of a fire when they relied on their intuition than when they deliberated about the information. Another interesting finding was that people were more likely to make accurate judgments about the trustworthiness of others when they relied on their intuition than through simple contemplation. Gary Klein, a cognitive psychologist, has spent his career studying how we make decisions in a complex and uncertain environment. Klein revolutionized the idea of naturalistic decision-making, which states that people often make decisions in situations where they don't have all the information they need and can't spare the time to consider various options. In these situations, individuals must rely on their intuition and experience to make decisions quickly and effectively. Klein's research has made such an impact in the world that even the White House Situation Room was redesigned based on his findings. And I ask you, isn't the case that our daily lives are the definition of uncertainty and imperfect information? That's why I believe nurturing our intuitive senses could yield great dividends for all of us. When we think about decision making, we often believe it is a function of how much thought we have put into a given situation. One such example is the stock market. Most people believe that making good trades is a function of one's reasoning skills. But a group of researchers decided to test this claim and see if gut feelings could actually yield better results. They recruited 18 traders who engage in high-frequency trading, that is, holding positions for seconds, minutes, or hours at the most, to determine whether or not those who tap into their physical sensory signals could make more money if they tap into their intuition. According to Annie Murphy-Paul, who's been a previous guest on my podcast, and she's the author of The Extended Mind, the ability to identify physical sensations that emerge from within us is best known as interoception, which includes the capacity to sense pain, hunger, and even heart rate variability. These sensations tend to emerge whenever we must make crucial decisions. The stock market researchers discovered that those who are more in tune with their bodily sensations had better investment decisions. Even crazier, those who were able to sense their heartbeats had better profit and loss profiles and had survived more time in the stock market. Another great example, illustrated by a study conducted by neuroscientist Anthony Damasio and discussed by Annie during our interview, as well as in her book, sheds light on how our bodies know before we do. In an online card game experiment, participants were asked to turn over cards from one of 4 decks, each containing a reward or a punishment. 2 decks contained more rewards than punishments, while the other 2 contained more punishments than rewards. Although participants were unaware of this pattern, their bodies reacted to the presence of a threat when they considered taking cards from the bad decks. Skin conductance, a measure of nervous system arousal, increased as the game progressed, indicating a physiological response to the stimuli. The most fascinating aspect of this experiment was that participants gradually learned to avoid the bad decks, despite their cognitive unawareness of the pattern. So, what does this mean for all of us? Our bodies are a storage of infinite knowledge. We tend to believe that the mind is the only piece of hardware we possess to process information. However, our entire intuitive system has been built to engage with the world in ways our rational mind alone cannot. Yet, our modern belief system prioritizes thoughts over feelings. We could make the case that French philosopher René Descartes, who coined the famous phrase, cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, defined the way we engage with the reality around us. To exist means to think, not to feel, according to him. Perhaps this is why we often regard emotions as useless and deceitful impressions, but the groundbreaking research on the human body's ability to learn and respond to stimuli sheds new light on how our internal sensations and bodily experiences can provide invaluable information, and how those who are more in tune with their internal sensations can harness this wisdom to enhance their understanding of their authentic selves and decision-making abilities. It sounds simple, but most of our intuitions and interoceptive abilities are neglected and muted in today's world. The modern world, as I discussed in the introduction of this episode, seems designed to cut the cord between our intuition and ourselves, since we're constantly bombarded with artificial stimuli. We're glued to a phone all day. We're never present with others or ourselves and are always in a rush to get to work or an appointment or to read the next news bomb or to be aware of the gossip. Therefore, we never create a space to allow our intuition to emerge and take charge. Fortunately, we have ways to tap into the power of our intuition. To make a stronger connection with our interoceptive abilities, Annie Murphy-Paul suggests that when making a big choice, journaling our physical sensations and reviewing them after making the decision can help us fine-tune our intuition. When we journal on how our body feels at the time and after contemplating a decision, we create a bridge between our gut feelings and our rational mind so they can begin working together. For example, how does your body feel when you're contemplating a leap of faith or accepting a new job offer? How does your body feel when facing a choice between two alternative paths? Another great tool to align with our interoception is meditation. Annie provides a great technique for a meditation called a body scan. When we meditate, we can check in with our physical sensations by scanning our body and sensing how it feels to power the connection between us and our bodies. This meditation doesn't take more than 5 minutes a day. Just close your eyes, set the intention of connecting with your intuition and your body, and envision a golden ring that scans your body, starting from your feet and going all the way up to your crown. By meditating, or at least periodically checking with how we feel, we can align with our true, infinite knowledge base. Think about it for a second. You are a line of genes in the making for millennia. This was a quote that Jim O'Shaughnessy, a previous guest on the show, mentioned on an episode, and I loved it. And you have made it up until now with all the evolutionary heritage that comes with such a journey. Your body is not dumb. You just have to be better in commanding your spacesuit. In modernity, most life decisions we take often fall under the optimization umbrella, the famous cost-benefit analysis. When we think about the career we want to choose, we tend to analyze how much it'll pay in the future in terms of networking, prestige, or actual earnings. But we tend to neglect how these decisions make us feel. We become so caught up in the moment, so distracted by the constant bombarding of stimuli, of news, of instant gratification, of social gratification, that we never ask ourselves, how does this decision feel with me? Further, we have not built the all-important bridge between our feelings and thoughts. Instead, we tend to see them as rivals, rather than as allies. When our family asks us, why did you make that decision? They expect us to have a detailed, rational, play-by-play breakdown of how we acted as we did. And this answer is the one we validate. If we would answer with it just felt right, or it felt wrong, they might perceive it as an impulsive or irrational decision. Our best compasses are our bodies and intuition. When we say that course of action just didn't bode well with me, and we have harnessed the power of our bodies to guide our decisions, we unlock an entirely new storage of infinite ancestral knowledge, which acts faster than any reason ever could. That awareness has existed within us for far longer than our prefrontal cortex. While this may seem like a rant against rationality, it is quite the opposite. Our rational minds evolved beyond instinct. So, why not create an alliance between them, rather than live through a constant battle between them? What if our feelings powered our thoughts? What if we could move across the world, making quicker decisions, based on a refined gut feeling without the need for an optimized explanation? What if we allowed space for what was possible based in our intuitions, instead of based on what was optimal? The evidence is right there. Intuition can lead us to great results when we face uncertainty and complexity without access to perfect information. Isn't this the game of life? When have you ever had perfect information? When have we ever found ourselves in a situation with a definite, certain, optimal outcome? The truth is that the only certainty we have in life is that life is all about uncertainty. Intuitive action may be paradoxically the most optimal way we can clear the path forward. Optimization and mechanization of life can be seen with a new lens that often serve as safety blankets to make us feel safer and more certain about our decisions, because the payoffs seem tangible. But the quicker we acknowledge the nature of the game, the uncertainty of it all, the more fulfilled we will become. as that realization is based on truth and obliterates the deceitful nature of our mechanical lives. Imperfection is perfection in and of itself. Perfection is an imperfection in and of itself. I hope you enjoyed this episode where I shared with you a small snippet of my upcoming book, The Time Is Now, A Guide to Honor Your Time on Earth. I felt that intuitively it was the best way forward, given that there's so much noise right now. Also within me, a lot of things are happening in my life right now that it's a bit overwhelming. So I decided to go with my gut. And I haven't done one of these episodes in a while where I share with you my book, which as of right now, it's perhaps one of my most meaningful creations. And I do hope if you watch throughout the entire episode and you're right here right now, you're my ideal reader. So if you would like to see more of the book itself, I'll put the link to my Substack, which is my blog where I share a lot of chapters and a lot of the content from the book. The link is also in the show notes. And also please reach out to me if this resonated with you. What do you think about these kinds of episodes? Do you like hearing about my book? I hope you do. If not, tell me why. And if you do, also share with a loved one. It's important for people who like these kinds of episodes to also join the community, because I will be definitely gifting many of my books. If you want one when it's the right time, I'll send one your way. So thank you for watching. Of course, stay tuned for more UFOs, more disclosure, more aliens. Stay tuned for more brilliant minds. Stay tuned for more politics, more science, more truth. Stay tuned for all of that. And every now and then also join me in these new kind of episodes if you're a new member. If not, and you've stayed long before, I thank you for watching again. And I'll see you next time.